Welcome to Post Game Podcast. I'm your host, June. I got my boy B Foster, and you know what it is. We want you to subscribe to Bleachers to Speakers on YouTube. I am messing up. Maybe I'm doing too much today. Let me run this back because I'm better than that. Subscribe to Bleachers to Speakers on YouTube. Follow us on the aggregators for your audio fix. That's anywhere you can listen to a podcast. You can go type in the search Post Game Podcast FFSN. You'll find me and Foster doing these Detroit Pistons podcasts. All you have to do is make sure you follow us. Make sure you hit that notification bell so when we drop content, you'll get an alert. Download those episodes for us. Foster, we've had another week in Pistons basketball, and I'm not quite sure of the record since last Saturday. However, we split one versus Washington, and we lost on 3-1-3 day.
Yeah, so we split in Washington. We split the Washington series. We edged out a victory against the Trailblazers, and we lost on Saturday to Golden State.
So that's how our week went. 2-2, right? Since
Correct.
Saturday.
Since Saturday.
Okay. 2-2 since Saturday. I don't want to make excuses, but we've come a long way to where 500 for the week is a disappointment. So that's progress. One of the games, that Golden State game was a close game as well. That was a close game, and we were in it to the end. I think Draymond bailed him out with a 3 late.
Oh my God. I forgot about that.
That was a dagger. But we hung tough. It was on the road, and that's the kind of effort you want to see. Didn't win. I don't count moral victories, but hey, it's one of those games where you have to be on your best to beat Golden State in Golden State with the way they're playing right now. And we fell a little short. From here on out, Foster, from here on out, we're going to treat 3-1-3 day in the NBA like the Thanksgiving Day game for the Lions. We cannot lose those games anymore. We do not lose on 3-1-3 day. I am declaring that as of this day going forward. We do not lose on 3-1-3 day. Now, it's very tough to beat a team back to back, right? But I'm not making excuses because we went to Chicago and put BTA in Chicago back-to-back games. So Troy said, "What's up, guys? The Wizards loss was surprising." Yes, it was. And did you hear the quote? Did you hear what nowadays it's hard to tell if it's AI or not. But Stewart said, "Well, we just didn't take those guys serious from the jump.
If you watch that game from the jump, there wasn't the same. They just were not. They just did not bring it the same. It was. I believe that was. I believe that's exactly what happened. Honestly, they looked very. They looked very like they were going through the motions, and they're so talented and so much more talented than the Wizards. They still had a good chance of winning the game, but this is the NBA, and you got to play 48 minutes. You can't bring it for 24 minutes. So, the Wizards were fired up after that first game. Marcus Smart certainly was fired up. I mean, he was ready to crash out on Stewart, and so they went in there with a purpose. And they had one of those nights where they just hit a bunch of threes because on the average night they probably are one of the worst 3-point shooting teams. Just guessing. I didn't look at the numbers. So they had a recipe for success that night, and it's hard to a broken clock is always right twice a day. So they're the broken clock of our wonderful season. I don't put as much stock in as some people. Some people are ready to, say, well, or this is not a Pistons fan perspective. They're like, oh, save Ivy for next year. You lost to the Wizards yesterday. I said,
I saw that, man. I saw that, and
that's my now he knows he's from, first of all, he's from Chicago.
Okay.
I went to college with him. He knows ball, but he's
that
also
doesn't sound like he knew ball.
I don't want to say he's a hater, but even when I I'll post that I'm at a Pistons game and he'll be like, how much of the, because the United Center and the culture, the culture of basketball in Chicago, you can't get no nice seats for a couple dollars, in Chicago. So he usually throw out a little jab saying like, oh, I bet you there, I bet you got them tickets for $20. And now granted they're not $1 million, but they ain't 20 either where I sit. So
well, first off, for
here we go.
For any Bulls fan to talk crazy, you haven't won anything since Jordan retired. Left, sir. So let's calm it down. Let's calm it down. Let's just stop there. Secondly, just wrap it up. You lost to the Wizards. I mean, it's easy to say. We've beaten teams like the Lakers, and there was no conversation of just wrap it up.
It was already then, but yeah.
I mean,
twice though.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, people pick and choose, and they just say the most outlandish things without they say things in the moment, right? Not making an excuse, but again, they're not an 0-82 team. They're still professionals.
Right.
And then on top of that, you lose 129 and 124, and they hit 20 3-pointers. I don't know any team in the league you're going to win against if they hit 20 3-pointers to your 10. It was just one of those nights where they had their threes falling, and they hit a couple of threes in that fourth, and it was like, whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, they're not missing. They're not missing, and it just happens. I'm gonna read a couple comments from Troy. Troy said, I expect us to come out with intensity tonight. Guys will be mad about that loss. I hope so. Troy says nobody outside Detroit respects the Pistons. And I'm gonna tell you this, right? And I agree with that, Troy. 2,000%. Shaq was in an interview, and they asked him, does he watch the Pistons? He said, no, they're boring. They're only 4 games above 500. And he thinks, and he said, Chauncey Billups has done a good job coaching them. Now, this is a guy, Hall of Famer, basketball player, one of my favorites of all time. And he's on a basketball show that airs weekly. And you mean to tell me, and I'm sure he has his hands full with his businesses, his family,
women,
and his show. I didn't want to go there. But to sit up there and tell me that a team is boring and you associate them with a coach that has never coached there before tells me you haven't watched the games, and you haven't watched the games to where you can make that assessment that they're boring to watch. You can't say they're boring if you haven't watched them. If you watched them play, you would know Chauncey Billups is not the coach.
He's definitely skimming. I guarantee you he probably caught wind of, I think Chauncey was recently honored. Well, I don't know.
Well, another thing, Foster, he was totally wrong. He said 4 games above 500, and they were 6 games above 500.
Right.
And there were only 3 teams in the West that were over 6 games above 500.
They had a better record. And boring team. We have this. We have the. You might as well say we have the most fast break points per game, because the last I checked, there was one team that had us by a 0.5 decimal, and that was the Denver Nuggets. That's the only team that has more fast break points per game. So, and he loved Isaiah Stewart. He loves the mentality that Isaiah Stewart plays with. But this is a team that gets out in the open floor and is exciting if you watch them. Now, if you don't watch them, you may not know that. But
I'm gonna run this back, right?
He's still mad about it.
It was 2004. 2004. The Pistons played Indiana in the playoffs, and the score was 69-67 in the fourth quarter with less than a minute left. That's when Tayshaun Prince got the block on Reggie Miller on the fast break. The score was 69-67. You never heard the word boring come out of that game. You're calling the Pistons boring, and they score points in trend. They're running and gunning. They're dunking. They are anything but boring.
Yeah. The dunking. Yeah, you're right. I don't know where we rank dunking wise. I'm going to look it up, but I would venture to say that we're tops of the league in that regards because of a Duran. Beasley booms every once in a while.
He's lighting it up with threes.
That too.
They even play shimmy. He has a signature move after he hits a three. This team has been more exciting than they have been in a very, very long time. But to sit up there and say that they're boring and you don't know who the coach is tells me you don't watch.
Stop the cap.
Stop the cap. Troy says he's still mad about 2004. I'll go even further. He might be still mad in 2005 because we whooped that ass in Miami as well when he was there.
Right.
So he could be mad at that too. Anyway, I digress. I don't want to, I love Shaq though. I'm a big Shaq fan. He was one of my favorite players when he was playing. From the time he got into the league until he retired, I was hoping he'd be good in Boston. I was hoping he'd be good in Phoenix and Cleveland, near the end of his career. It just didn't. Didn't happen. Yeah, but he was still one of my favorite players. That guy from the time when he was on Orlando, Lakers, Miami, beast. But you lose on 3-1-3 day. And to me, you forget about that game if you win tonight versus OKC. It's a tall order, but you don't think about this game if you win tonight. I don't think you think about the game if you play very well and lose. You just have to play better than you did last game. And I think the Pistons will play good tonight. And OKC is on a heater right now. They have a young team. They are winning. They've been playing good, solid ball all year long. And you win tonight, you don't think about that game versus Washington. That's the beauty of the NBA. You lose a game and it's not the playoffs, you get a chance to play in a couple of days. You can throw that out your mind.
That's for damn sure.
You got to go ahead and lace them back up. Well, if it's not and even if it was a playoff game, if it's not one that eliminates you, you got a game in a couple of days. You know what I'm saying? You win that game, you know what I'm saying? You got momentum into the next. So it is what it is. I was utterly disappointed, but at the same time, a few minutes after the game, I shook it off. Wasn't no big deal. But one thing, me and Foster came to a conclusion watching that game. We love to have Marcus Smart here in Detroit.
Hey, man, that's one of those guys because Stu ain't the biggest fan of Marcus Smart, I would guess, but I feel like there's a respect there, and I feel like the two of them together would be a wrecking crew on that second unit, man. Whatever. He's got a couple years. He got obviously got traded from Memphis, and he's got a couple years remaining on his deal and shit. I mean, if Wizards would be smart to hold on to him, but if there was any way that we could get our hands on him and it made sense roster wise, I talked about it. I'll take him over Hardaway right now. Love Hardaway, respect. Love that, he played in Michigan and has got an opportunity to build something with a Michigan team. But Smart's still solid. Probably not who you want to be your starting guard on your team.
But to come off the bench and that can make shots and play the defense that he plays and give you that mental toughness and just be a tough player, bring his chunky ass on.
Championship pedigree. Never missed the train, with Boston because they went out and got Holiday, which is an upgrade. But championship pedigree, in my opinion. Hey, and y'all probably don't remember when he was some people remember when he was at OK State. I don't know how he ended up in the stands, but he was trying to crash out then. Somebody said something to him and he pushed the guy in the stands and all that. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, that was young Marcus Smart.
That was young Marcus Smart. He was hey man, he's a bulldog. He can hit the outside, and he was hitting his threes the other night, and I'm like, man. I mean, anytime he was open, he knocked it down. I was like, this guy, man, he would be all right in a Pistons uniform. I'm not gonna hold you. But going back to earlier in the week, lost to Golden State. First of all, it was a good game. That was an entertaining game. Back and forth. You had Curry doing his thing. You had Butler doing his thing. And you had the Pistons. They were doing their thing. It looked like two heavyweight boxers. Just, trading blows. Just trading punches. And that's what it looked like that whole game. And it took the fourth quarter for them to hit a couple of shots and to go ahead. You know what I'm saying? And that's just how that game was. And that was last Saturday. I think the game after that was that the
Blazers.
The YNs in Portland, man.
Those young teams have been giving us some trouble.
They were a pesky bunch, but the Pistons showed resolve. They got it together on Monday, and they beat Portland. But Portland was pesky. They were Grant, Simons. They were pesky. They're going to be a team to watch out in the West. If they get another player, even Scoot Henderson had some moments.
Scoot has been solid since that slow start.
Mm-hmm. So I remember when I wanted Scoot, I said, "Man, dang, we can't draft two. I want Scoot here."
It was Scoot and Wemby talk for a little bit.
Yeah,
not serious talk, but
yeah, it was mentioned. This could be the guy, and I wanted Scoot here, but I'm glad we got who we got. I noticed, and then we played Washington and, won the first game. And in the second game, in the fourth quarter or late, I didn't see a lot of Oscar Thompson, Foster. Do you remember that?
I want to say, was he in foul trouble? One of those games he was in foul trouble, but
hold on. Let's take a quick break. We're 20 minutes in already, Foster. Let's take a quick break. And I want to talk about that because one of the things that I noticed, there was a lack of defensive presence in that fourth quarter, well, throughout the game. And there was a stretch in the fourth quarter where we could have used some defense and get some stops. And Oscar Thompson wasn't out there, but we'll figure that out. If you're listening, you're going to hear some ads. If you're watching, give us like 10, 15 seconds. Foss, there was a Raydale Shemaine sighting on Instagram. He was watching. I don't know if he's still watching, but shout out to you, brother. Been a while.
That's a name that I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah, man. That's a good dude, man. I don't know if he's still watching, but if he is, shout out to you. Appreciate you for stopping by. Even if you're not there, we appreciate you for, just checking in with us, man. Sometimes we get some people on Instagram that watch and check in. That's pretty dope. But we got a game tonight, Foss.
Yes, we do.
The number one team in the West versus who has on their team one of the leading candidates for MVP with SGA, with a good core of young people to help. This is going to be a good game. Definitely have to shore up the defense. They have to raise the defensive intensity up tonight to have a chance. Can't have that defense that you have versus Washington in the second game. The defense has to do better, and we have to watch our turnovers. We have to watch our turnovers. You know what I noticed though, Foss? I complain about Cade not getting calls. He went to the free throw line about 20 times the other night.
He's garnered that respect versus the Wizards. We'll see how he does against the upper echelon of the league. That's where we really need it.
Well, and that brings me to a call. There was a block by Sarr. They reviewed it and said it was off Cade. I thought that was a foul. He goes up for a dunk. He had a clear lane, and he goes up for the dunk. If you watch the replay, there's all kinds of contact. And he wound up blocking the ball, but there was contact. Usually, they just call a foul, but they call out of bounds on Sarr. They reviewed it and found out it was off on Cade.
Yeah, no, I remember.
So it was like you fuss about him not being able to get to the free throw line. He gets to the free throw line 20 times, and then the one call you need, he doesn't get. And it's like you couldn't put a finger on Steph Curry when we played him. Couldn't touch him. He'd get that call in a minute. It just...
That's the game where Stu got in his face when he was all by the bench doing all that extra ish.
Yeah. MSU Detroit fan says, if a loss to Washington means we beat OKC, I'll be okay. I agree. If a win tonight, you won't even think about that game versus Washington. It's definitely, it's already an afterthought for me. But if you win the night versus OKC, you good. You are good. And I'm not tripping. I just hate that it happened on 3-1.
That's the killer.
That's the killer. You gotta win on 3-1-3 day. And I also think before you play the best team in the league or the second best team in the league, because Cleveland is obviously the best team in the league. But before you play the best team in the West, that you have to win versus the worst team in the league going into that game. Because the pundits are counting you out. You know what I'm saying? The fan base is probably saying, okay, we might not win versus OKC. We just lost to Washington. That's why you have to win that game. The key to the Pistons season this year is that we've won the games we're supposed to win for the most part. And we've beaten some good teams too, but the teams that we're supposed to win, we've been pretty much taking care of business. That was not the case the last few years. Like there'd be a team that just looks that much better, that we look that much better than, and we still lose to them. Case in point, earlier the year we played Utah. Utah was horrible. It put BTA in LCA. It was bad.
In LCA.
It was bad.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, they hit, and the thing is, and I'm starting to notice the teams that beat us, they hit a lot of threes. Is it because of a lack of defending the 3-point line, or is it just a lack of rotation getting to the shooters? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I can't really put my finger on what that's about, but
yeah, we'll figure it out though. MSU Detroit fan says the Pistons next 6, and I appreciate him for this because he always keeps us up on this. MSU Detroit fan says the Pistons next 6 is Thunder, at Pelicans, at Heat, at Mavericks, Pelicans, and Spurs. Now, I like this next 6.
I was gonna say there's some games to circle on here that we ought to handle some business.
Okay. Now, Thunder, tough game.
Tough.
Right? At Pelicans, winnable. At Heat, winnable.
On ESPN.
At Mavericks, winnable.
Winnable. We better beat we better beat them bad. No Kyrie, no Anthony Davis. No
I'm just saying, Foss, we just lost to the Wizards, so I'm keeping it. I'm keeping it in the buck.
Absolutely not.
Pelicans at home, winnable. Spurs, no De'Aaron Fox.
Or Wemby.
Winnable.
Gotta win that game.
MSU Detroit fan says need to win those games. After that game against San Antonio, they had a very tough stretch. Like I said, the only tough game in that 6-game stretch is OKC. Now, imagine you beat OKC and you win the next 5. I think in that point, if that happens, the Pistons move up from 6 to at least 4.
Yeah, it certainly puts them in a driver's seat. Obviously, it depends on what the Bucks and Indiana does. You know, we're a full game behind both of them right now, but yeah, that's going to put us in a good position.
Yeah, I honestly think if you do that, if you win 6 games in a row with the way that these teams have been playing lately, because we're on their heels, we're on the 4th and 5th place heels, and I think the standings change. You go on a 6-game winning streak. I just think that's what happens.
Oh, wow.
Cavaliers at Timberwolves, at Thunder, at Raptors, at Grizzlies. I'm gonna tell you something, MSU Detroit fan. There's nothing that can make me pay attention to the Cavaliers record right now. They are so far ahead. It does nothing. Their wins and losses does nothing for us. They are going to be the number 1 seed at the end of the season, regardless. So, he's saying we play the Cavaliers.
Yeah. That's what he's saying. Yeah.
I thought they were saying the Cavaliers was that's what they're, but
we ain't chasing them.
No. Versus the Cavaliers, they've been so successful against us this year. At Timberwolves, at Thunder, at Raptors, Grizzlies.
Whew.
Grizzlies is tough.
Yeah.
Cavaliers is tough. At the Timberwolves, it's probably going to be tough.
Yeah, that's solid. Ant dropped 50 I mean, we beat him pretty handedly because he was playing by himself, but Ant dropped 50.
This is why the next 6 games you got to do well, because you have a stretch like this. You have a stretch like this. Wow, that's tough. That's tough. The only game in that is the Raptors that you know. Our next 11 games, the tail end of that next 11 out of the 11, it can be tough. This is why you have to win the games you're supposed to win.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you have to win those games. We're still at 6, right?
Yeah, we're locked in at we'll be no less than 6, but definitely some room to advance in the standings.
Yeah, I just think that I like the makeup of this team. I like the way they've been playing. There have been a couple of blemishes where you're like, what the heck are you guys doing? But they usually get back on track. You know what I'm saying? It's not an ongoing thing. You don't see 3 or 4 game losing streaks and you're like, oh, what the heck is this team doing? It's usually a loss, win, usually a win after a loss. There's not too many losing streaks that's going on. It's more win streaks than anything. The losing streaks was at the beginning of the season when we said that first 10 games was a gauntlet, and it was. Those first 10 games of the season was rough, and I think it kind of put us in that mode. We needed a rough start. We needed some tough teams to play in the beginning, because basically after that we've been pretty good, throughout the rest of the season. So, what's the record right now, Foss? 38 and
the record is 37 and 30.
37 and 30. So that means it's 15 games left.
No, and so I was going to say after those 11, I'm like, can't be too much left.
No, yeah.
So we do have 2
games left. Foster, what is our record these last 15 games? How do we finish?
Last 15.
10 and 5.
I was going to say 10 and 5. I'll say 9 and 6.
So with that being said, if you're 9 and 6 these next 15, and you're at 37 games, that means they'll put you at 46 and 36 for the season.
Yep.
I love it.
Oh yeah, I'll take that all day and twice on Sunday, man.
Freaking love it. Troy says 8 and 7. I'll take that.
Yeah. I mean, we still got games with the Cavs. We still got 2 games left with Milwaukee. And then Timberwolves and Grizzlies and everybody else that we talked about already. So we got some, we got some tough games down the stretch. But in comparison to the rest of the league, I want to say we have one of the weaker strengths of schedule down the stretch.
MSU Detroit fan has a very interesting comment. Said Jaden Ivey returning would definitely help. Now, the reason why this is interesting is because Foster has a write-up on Jaden Ivey, and you can check that out on FF. Tell them where they can find that first, Foster.
The best thing you can do is Google FFSN Pistons, and then everything will come up in the archive that I've ever written about or anybody else has ever written about on the Pistons. And you can do the same thing for the Tigers and Lions. I got write-ups on all those different teams. But yeah, I don't want to get too deep into the Ivy situation, but he's out of the walking boot and he's resumed weight-bearing exercises and spot up shooting at the current moment. So he is looking to be on, he said he's taking it day to day, but he is certainly looking to be ready by the playoffs. And I want to talk down when we get an opportunity. I do kind of want to talk about what he will bring back to the team, but to also remind people, some of the things that kind of were a detriment to the team as well, because the team has done very well in his absence. Not to say that they're better off without him, but there's certainly a reason why we've continue to be successful in spite of him.
Well, that's the goes without saying. We know we're a better team with him. We just know that they played some pretty good ball despite of him being gone.
Yeah.
So the thing is, if you get him, we're in a position where we don't have to rush him back to be better. He can only get back here when you're 100% healthy and 100% confident in your injury. We don't want you playing timid. We don't want you to be scared. We want you to be back healthy mentally and physically. We got a guy named Dennis Schroeder, and he's been playing pretty good. Now, I'm not saying he's been playing Ivy good, but he gets those buckets that, Ivy, that we counted on Ivy to get when he's in there. And he's taking the ball to the rack and he's hitting outside shots. It's one of those things where, come back when you're ready. No rush at all. MSU Detroit fans says 44-38. Once again, I'll take that.
Take that.
Look, now, with that being said, let's say the Pistons finish 44-38, meaning they're going to win 7 out of these last 15, right? Is JB Bickerstaff Coach of the Year? In your opinion, Foster?
No, I think that if we finish exceptionally strong down the stretch, you make a really strong case. I mean, at this point, there's really nothing he can do because, if it's based upon who's having a better year, the Cavs coach is going to win that every time. So there's really nothing he can do.
I tell you what, Foster, and yeah. I'm willing to bet the farm on this. It's 15 games left. They are 37-30. I'm just going to throw a number out there.
50.
If they win 13 out of these last 15,
yeah, they win 50 games.
And they win 50 games.
You got to.
Going to, regardless of what they've done in Cleveland, the Pistons win 50 games. JB's definitely
got to beat Cleveland though. Within those 50 games, you can't lose 4 games.
One of those 2 losses can't be versus Cleveland. You only got Cleveland 1 time left, right? If you finish up with a crazy run at the end of the season to give you close to 50, get you 50 games or 49. I'll go 49. Because they're going to say they won 14 games last year and they damn near won 50 this year.
And they won 14 in the last 15. Or the last 16, we'll say.
This argument goes on with my boy Tate. He's a Cleveland Cavalier. Check out That's So Cavalier on YouTube. His show is on, and we have a Central Division show on Mondays with Cleveland and Chicago Bulls representative. And we have this debate all the time. Who's Coach of the Year? JB Bickerstaff was the Cleveland Cavaliers coach last year. They bring in Atkinson, and all of a sudden, they done forgot what JB has done for them. I'm going to say it. Yes. But Tate's argument is that you got to give it to Atkinson because of the masterful job he's done and the winning that they've been doing. But they had a team. They was projected to be very good this year. Right? Probably not the record that they have, but we knew going into this season that Cleveland would be good. They were a playoff team They were a playoff team last year. And to come from the depths of the laughingstock to being a playoff team, I think that achieves more. Keeping the same core, you get better results with the same core and different coach. MSU Detroit says, don't let the Pistons get hot. Yeah. Troy says they probably wouldn't. We always get screwed on the awards. Of course. I still think K should have got Rookie of the Year. Yeah, they gave it to Barnes. It is what it is, man. MSU Detroit fan says, JB made what the Cavs are right now. Yes. Bro, it's like you gotta give JB his credit, man. He brought that team along. They just got to a certain point and said, we're going to make a coaching change, and it worked for him. It worked for him. Cleveland is the best team in the league. They've won 12, 13 straight, and they're favored in every single game they play. Like, it is what it is, man. I don't want to talk about Cleveland like that, man. I still got my Pistons. Colonial style houses. Anyway, Foster, you want to put a ball on this?
Yeah, I want to leave you with something. The Pistons are best when they are playing good defense, getting out in transition, and they're best when they're getting out in transition. It's when they have to slow it down in the half court, and the teams are able to blitzcade and force somebody else to be that true number 2 option that we struggle a little bit. Malik Beasley has not been his best as of late. He only had three 3-point attempts in the last game, which is very uncharacteristic of him. And the team has struggled as a whole shooting from the outside. And it's showed, it's been a negative worked negatively against the team. So look for the team to get back on the right track, because when the playoffs, because we know that when the playoffs start, the game slows down. You're not doing all that running. And I feel like that's one thing that could hurt the Pistons, is not having that true number 2 option for Cade to defer to, because, Beasley has been such a godsend for us this year. You can't really depend on Asar Thompson offensively. He's kind of slowed down some. And Tim Hardaway's another starter that just doesn't, that doesn't, offensively, you can't depend on him on a daily basis. So somebody has to step up. This is one of the reasons why a Jaden Ivey, was so imperative to us early in the year. I will say Dennis Schroeder has done everything that we could possibly want from him and his awkward shot, but he's played very well. He's taken care of the ball. And I feel like as of late, he's been a better player than Malik Beasley. He's kind of stepped up and been that extension of the starting unit, and it's kept us afloat. But we know how much the fans love Malik Beasley. And, I've seen it with my own eyes, how him hitting a transition 3 or just a big jumper in general can ignite the crowd and get the team going. So look to see, look for him to get back going in the upcoming games, because we do know that he has some limitations, which is why I never considered him to be the true number 2 guy, even though he's essentially probably the second best scorer on the team, maybe Tobias Harris too. But at the same time, Malik Beasley has some limitations, and you can't really depend on him to create for himself. He can a little bit, but not to the way that we need a true playoff team needs. So, look for the Pistons to get back on the right track, shooting wise, and specifically, and most importantly, Malik Beasley.
And you mentioned Tobias Harris, and your boy said on your post that Tobias Harris had been trash most of the year.
He doesn't watch.
He doesn't watch. And I'm going to say this: Tobias Harris has had more good games than bad. So if you're going to say something like that, that tells me you haven't watched.
Reputation and what it's been for the last few years. But if you've been paying attention, he's having a better year than Jimmy Butler. Not Jimmy Butler. He's having a better year than Paul George. And
that was supposed to be the answer for Philly.
Yes.
Replacing Tobias Harris with Paul George. It's crazy. Well, that's another Pistons Weekly in the books for this week. We will if I'm gonna tell you this, folks.
No, here we go.
If the Pistons win tonight, you'll see Foster back here tonight.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Been a long day already. It's not even 1 o'clock yet.
Yeah. Subscribe to Bleachers to Speakers on YouTube.